Beloved people of God, we have all been experiencing some significant loss throughout this COVID pandemic of the past few months. And one of the most significant losses that I think most of us feel is the loss of community. It has been hard to be apart as a congregation physically. Even though we've tried to remain connected in other ways, nothing replaces being together. And those of us on the consistory and staff here at Third are all longing to get back to that point where we can gather together once again. We're also committed to doing that in the safest way possible and trying to be responsible with the best information that's available to us. So what we've done at this point in this pandemic experience is put together a Third Reformed Safe Start plan. You can find a link to the 3-page PDF of that plan in the description for this video. And if you're on the email mailing list, you will have gotten that emailed to you as well. So we put together this Safe Start plan following after the My Safe Start plan that was issued by Governor Whitmer and is administered by the Michigan Economic Recovery Council. That has broken the state up into different regions and provided 6 stages for guidelines at the state level. Those are uncontrolled growth, persistent spread, flattening, which is the stage we're in right now, improving, containing, and post-pandemic. We decided that rather than working with specific dates on a calendar, we would put together a plan that follows those 6 stages with our own guidelines for the life of the congregation here at Third. We formed those after listening to Kent County Health Department guidelines and recommendations and listening to the input of you as a congregation. And we are so grateful that 137 people responded to our summer survey to let us know how you're experiencing this and what your comfort levels and opinions are around how we can move towards a safe start. So we know that not everything in these guidelines will match up with everybody's personal preferences or comfort level, but we trust that it represents a wise plan that represents a majority opinion within the congregation as well as our best judgment. And it's important for us to note that as we each hit each stage and ease up on some of the things that we are allowed to do again, that does not bring with it an expectation that you will participate before you or your family feels comfortable doing so. Throughout this whole recovery process, we will continue to be producing content for the church YouTube channel and providing tools like the in-home guide for worship. So as we add new things in, we're going to continue to do the things that we've been doing these past few months. So I'm going to quickly go through what our guidelines are at each stage according to the Third Reformed Safe Start plan. As I said before, the region number 2 that Grand Rapids is in the center of is currently at stage 3, flattening. And in this stage, we're making a few changes recently. One is that staff are allowed to work again back on site and meet one-on-one with members of the congregation. So if you're interested in setting up an appointment for pastoral care or to meet one-on-one with one of the other staff people, reach out to us and we're going to make space to do that following social distance guidelines and requiring the use of a mask while on site here at the church. We've already begun collecting masks, stocking up on those so that we can provide them for those who do not have their own. We're also beginning Sunday morning Zoom worship. On the survey, it was clear that 76% of the people said they watch the Sunday message every week, and another 14% said they do almost every week. But the use of the in-home worship guide and the music videos and the other components clearly shows a drop-off. So our hope had been that we could create tools that people would use for a worship experience in home, but it's clear that we're looking for more interpersonal connection outside of our own families. So those Sunday morning Zoom worship watch parties will include working through the in-home guide for worship, using screen share to watch the YouTube videos so you don't have to do anything to pull that up, and breaking into breakout rooms where 3 or 4 households can engage for 15 minutes around reflection questions or prayer requests. We also would say at this stage that you as members of the congregation could feel free gathering together with others who are comfortable doing so in homes or in public places, which could include Sunday morning small group gatherings to watch worship and engage with that with one another. Stage 4 is improving. As we're recording this the last month of May, that is the stage that the Traverse City region and the Upper Peninsula is in, where some of the restrictions start to get loosened. So in addition to including the online content that we'll be doing, Stage 4 will also be the point where the church building is opened back up again for small group gatherings, Bible studies, that sort of a thing, but only if you schedule that through the office with Lisa. That way we can control the number of people who are on site at any given time and make sure that we have time to thoroughly disinfect and prepare areas between meetings. We will also begin at Stage 4 to offer occasional outdoor worship opportunities where you can either worship from your car or in pre-marked spaces on the lawn. Stage 4 is also where we will start to put together some other smaller in-person gatherings outside of that Sunday morning space. That may be something like having 10 appropriately spaced stations pre-set up with elements for communion and having 10 groups or families of people sign up at a time to come in and receive the Lord's Supper together, or other kind of creative ways to help us get back together in the same physical space. Again, we're not sure when we will reach Stage 4, but we expect that our region would be upgraded to that at some point during this summer. Stage 5 is containing. And this is where we would begin to engage with worship back in the sanctuary space. And with that, we will clearly be following COVID-safe procedures. We're going to be closely monitoring the best public health advice that's out there to make those decisions as we get closer. And we're prepared to offer multiple services over a Sunday or a weekend to make sure that we can maintain proper social distancing while still allowing the opportunity of worship for those who would like to do so. Stage 5 is also where we would begin to resume children and youth programs, as well as adult education and faith formation, again with those COVID-safe procedures. Stage 5 is also where we would begin working with our community partners to begin resuming missional work within the community. And that would, of course, be in conversation with leadership at East Leonard Elementary School, North End Community Ministries, Supper House, and Mel Trotter Mission to find the best and safest ways for us to continue loving our neighbors well as we make our way through this recovery process. And finally is Stage 6, post-pandemic. And in some ways, Stage 6 is when we would begin to return to what might feel a little normal. Worship back in the sanctuary without size limitations, return of all programming without any restrictions in place. But we also acknowledge that even in a post-pandemic world, there will be some things that we've been doing through this time that will always remain. We will have an increased focus on overall public health and be revising practices for high contact activities like passing of the peace, communion, fellowship time, and community life. We also realize the importance of maintaining a healthy presence in the online space where so much of life is lived these days and where so many people have a first point of engagement with a church. So Sunday morning worship and other online-based engagement through the YouTube channel, through Zoom and increased electronic email communication is going to be something that will always be a part of the life of Third Church moving forward. I want to thank you again for your patience and your graciousness throughout this time as we all are navigating uncharted waters. We understand, again, that these guidelines don't represent what every individual would wish, but we ask you to honor these guidelines as we try to make wise decisions for our whole community, care for the most vulnerable among us, and begin working back towards that deeply valued role of Christian community in our lives. So thank you for taking the time to engage around this Safe Start plan. Feel free to reach out to me or others on consistory or staff if you have any questions or need any clarification. And I truly hope to see you all soon. God willing, and the creek don't rise.